Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Big Shot Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my college basketball bank shot best bet, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Wednesday's card in college hoops. First up, we see Alabama and Auburn. This one's going to be a 7 p.m. Eastern start time. It's going to be on ESPN2. This is the highly anticipated rematch between these two rivals. As the first game on January 24th, so not too long ago, was really exciting. It was a 4-point win for Alabama. It was a game where Auburn had an 8-point lead through the first 5 minutes, but Bama was dominant the rest of the first half, had a nice halftime lead by double digits, and Auburn, in the second half, they made a nice comeback, and they actually, I think, had the lead momentarily, and it was score for score, neck and neck the rest of the way. Bama pulling through with that 4-point win and cover in the end, but Auburn playing at home now in this game, where we know Auburn, like many teams, play their best basketball at home. Great home court advantage, playing with revenge in this spot, and in good form. After that Alabama loss, we saw Auburn lose to Mississippi State as well, but they bounced back with wins over Vanderbilt by 81-54 final score, and Mississippi Ole Miss, 14-point win there. And Auburn, I think, was down by 9 points at halftime in that ball game. So it just goes to show you can never count out this Auburn offense. It's really an offense that's not shooting the ball so well. They're ranked 64th in effective field goal percentage and 185th in three-point shooting, but they played a really fast pace and they're very efficient offensively. So they can go on some big runs, and like we saw in the Ole Miss game and the second half against Alabama, some nice comebacks. And I think in this spot, Auburn's just going to be too much at home. Alabama has not proven too much on the road this season. They have some solid wins at Georgia, at Mississippi State, at Vanderbilt, but none of those environments or none of those teams can really be compared to Auburn, in my opinion, when we've seen them play comparable opponents to Auburn, Creighton, Arizona, Tennessee, some of those road games. We've seen them lose all those games. They lost by double digits to Arizona in a semi-road game, and then lost by 20 points at Tennessee. Got to go with Auburn here in the rematch. I'm going to lay the points. Next up, we see Villanova and Xavier. This one's going to be a 7 p.m. Eastern start time as well. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1. Another Xavier game here on the Bank Shot Breakdown. We've done pretty well with Xavier games this season. The last time we talked about the Musketeers, we backed them against St. John's. They won that game for us 88-77, and they're on a 2-game win streak now. But I am looking to fade Xavier. And normally I would say, this is a home team playing with revenge. They lost to Villanova earlier. Maybe not a bad spot, but I just think Villanova is so underrated right now. I think they're much better than their current record. They're only 12-10 overall and 5-6 in conference play. I think they're still one of the better teams in this conference. They're obviously one of the more experienced teams in college basketball, 14th most experienced team in the nation. So they've got a ton of talent. They have experience. They're fundamentally a strong team to take care of the basketball. They are a very strong defensive rebounding team and the #1 free throw shooting team in the country. And that they're shooting 81.4% from the line. It makes me believe that this offense is going to get some better numbers from 3- and 2-point range as well as we continue. The shot quality is there. Like I said, they take care of the ball. Those shots are going to start falling at a better rate, in my opinion, for Villanova as we continue conference play. It's not going to be an easy spot on the road, like I said, against a revenge-minded foe. I still think Villanova is that good. I think they're a lot better than their current projections. So give me Villanova here. I'm going to take them to win this game outright. Next up, we see Loyola Chicago and George Mason. This one's going to be a 7 p.m. Eastern start time as well. It's going to be on ESPN+. Now, I mentioned that I am looking to fade Loyola Chicago right now, and you know what? They burned us last game. They beat Davidson, give them credit. That was a 13-point win over the Wildcats, but it was also a game where Loyola Chicago shot 50% from 3, 14-28 from 3, one of the best performances you're going to see from any team in college basketball this year. Now, Loyola Chicago is a good three-point shooting team. They get a lot of their points from the perimeter, but they're nowhere near 50% on the season. So on the road here, I don't think we expect them to go crazy from the perimeter yet again. And fundamentally, I have my issues with this team. They turn the ball over way too much. They don't get a lot of offensive rebounds, and it's why they're ranked 219th in adjusted offensive efficiency. I don't trust the offense here against a very good George Mason team when they're playing at home. I don't love George Mason on the road, but they have been one of the best home teams in college basketball, really. They only have one home loss this season. That was by 4 points against a very good VCU team. Other than that, in conference play and non-conference play, George Mason has been dominant at home. I like them in this spot. I think they're the fundamentally better team here. Now, their three-point defense isn't amazing, so Loyola Chicago should have some success from three-point range, but that hasn't really stopped George Mason this year, even when teams shoot well. Like, you look at that Rhode Island game against George Mason George Mason won that game 92-84, so an 8-point victory. And that was when Rhode Island shot 13-27 from three, 48% compared to 32% for George Mason. Didn't matter. George Mason was that dominant in the paint, on the glass, and forcing turnovers. I'm going to take George Mason in this one. I think Loyola Chicago is overvalued. Next up, we see Nebraska and Northwestern. This one's going to be a 9 p.m. Eastern start time. It's going to be on the Big Ten Network. Now, it's not always my first choice to back a team after back-to-back overtime games, but in this game, we have no choice. Both of these teams coming off back-to-back overtime games. Northwestern lost both of those games to Purdue and Minnesota, and then Nebraska beat Wisconsin but lost to Illinois in overtime. In this matchup, Northwestern playing at home, playing with revenge. They lost by 6 points in Nebraska on January 20th, and that was a game that I liked Northwestern in. And actually, when you look at the final box score, I actually thought Northwestern played pretty well. They forced more turnovers by far. They were strong on the offensive glass. The game came down to Nebraska was excellent from three-point range, excellent from two-point range. Northwestern, 32% from three, just not going to get it done. But here's the thing. Overall, shot quality-wise, these teams are pretty similar. And Northwestern overall is 29th in effective field goal percentage, 8th in three-point shooting percentage. Much better numbers in Nebraska. I think the Northwestern's going to bounce back here from that first game, the first meeting between these two teams. I think we're going to see much sharper shooting percentage numbers. Now, the one thing that Northwestern usually has an issue with is the rebounding. In that first game against Nebraska, they were strong on the glass, but against most teams in the conference, they have struggled because they're ranked 305 in offensive rebounding and 217th in defensive. The problem for Nebraska is they can't really exploit that. They're also a very weak rebounding team, and I think Northwestern's just a better team here. I'm going to take them and lay the points at home. I like them by a good margin. Next up, we see Texas A&M and Missouri. This one's going to be a 9 p.m. Eastern start time. It's going to be on ESPN2. Now, we talk a lot about the situational aspect of college basketball handicapping. Letdown spots, revenge games, playing at home, with the home court advantage and all that kind of stuff, rivalries. And, this game is not the best situationally for Texas A&M on paper. They're playing after a huge, upset win, you could say, against Florida in their last game after Florida beat Kentucky. And Texas A&M really needed that win. It was a game that went down to the final buzzer. Really, emotional, exciting win for Texas A&M. You're playing Missouri, who's playing at home, and they're playing with revenge because they lost to Texas A&M earlier in the season. So situationally, I would say it's beneficial for Missouri in this game. However, that's the only thing I think benefits Missouri. I think Texas A&M statistically has a huge advantage in this game. And when you look at the first meeting between these two teams, I think Missouri was honestly really fortunate that game was only a 6-point final score, as Texas A&M dominated on the offensive glass with 7 more offensive rebounds. They had 6 more forced turnovers. They had 37 total free throw attempts in that ball game. The only reason why it was not a blowout was because the Aggies shot so poorly in that ball game. And we know Texas A&M's already struggling shooting percentage-wise from three-point range, from two-point range, but their shooting percentages in that game against Missouri were way worse than their season averages. So that just goes to show you, Texas A&M I still think is underrated offensively. They create really good looks. They take care of the basketball like we saw in that first game, the first meeting. They get to the free throw line and they get those offensive boards. If their shooting percentages just improve a little bit as the season continues, we're going to see them put together some crooked numbers offensively. And you know what? Give the defense credit for holding Florida to 66 points in that ball game last time out. A very potent Florida offense. I think the Aggies are right now a team to watch out for. I still think they're undervalued. So while the situation may not be the best, I'm willing to roll the dice here with Texas A&M in this matchup on the road. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday in college hoops. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.